Okay, yes, fine, I'm not actually a crab. Turns out they don't make surgery to make humans into crabs, so that's a bit of a shame. And for any of you who know me, you know I absolutely adore VR. I've been doing VR basically non-stop for a year and a half. I tried not VR things and it didn't work. I put so much effort into that video. And pending me being arrested for defaming a woman who stole everybody's money, I've decided to make a small little video, and by small video it'll probably end up being 20 minutes again because I talk forever. And it's going to be on my personal top 10 VR Quest games. For the reason I put Quest, like specifically Quest in there, for those of you who don't know what a Quest is, the Quest 2 is a standalone VR headset, which means it doesn't have access to Steam. They're cheaper than the other headsets and also they're wireless, and I think everybody likes them because they're 7 and don't own a PC yet and their mum bought it for them for Christmas. But to be honest, it's probably what it was made for. If you notice me messing with my hand, by the way, 2 seconds ago, if you saw the little Gollum short, I alluded to this. I decided to spray some adhesive on the panels, foam panels, you can't see them, they're behind you. They fell off because I didn't spray them very well, so I sprayed them again. The difference being is that I had the nozzle pointed the wrong way and it sprayed into my hand. So now I'm covered in glue and it won't go away. There are only 2 games on this list that are Quest exclusive, but they are a bit of a doozy, so no one says that word anymore. Doozy? What am I, like 700? I'm old woman with walking stick. This is my practice. This is my audio practice, is me screaming. So there are only 2 games on this list that are Quest exclusive, but they are pretty important, one of them being completely Quest exclusive for some reason, and the other one's player-based being completely dead on PC, but I'll explain those 2 games when I get to them anyway. A quick disclaimer, no, Beat Saber's not on this list because I refuse to buy all of your DLC. Beat Saber is incredibly expensive on the Quest. It's about as expensive as a Quest game can get, and you have like 20 songs, and the rest of them you have to buy for like $10. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to eliminate that because even though it is a good game and it revolutionized VR, the Quest port is just a money laundering scheme and I don't like it. I'm on your shit, whoever develops Beat Saber. Fortnite. Before we get started, by the way, if you have a top 10 list of VR games, pause it, write down your top 10, leave it in the comments, and I'd love to see like what everyone thinks afterwards, comparing them. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So seriously, just take like 2 seconds to do that. I think that'd be awesome. Maybe we should do the clickbait thing where I'm like, oh my god guys, number 1, it will blow your brain. You will see that number 2 is secretly Fortnite, and you'll be like, oh, how do I get Fortnite in VR? No, I'm not telling you, it's my secret. The crabs invented VR. We invented Fortnite. What are we doing, man? Write a script. That'll stop you from being an absolute moron. No, it won't. I'll still be a moron. Now I'll be a moron with words in front of me, which won't stop me from eating you. Did I threaten to eat the audience? Oh no, I'm going to be arrested for being a dumb. Can you be arrested for having low IQ? So starting off this list at number 10 is Fef. Now, Fef VR, Fef VR is actually a really good horror game. I don't really play it that much because it's genuinely really terrifying. Being in an actual office with these animatronics walking around, and they're fully animated this time as well. They're not just pictures like in the original game. Terrifying. It's borderline terrifying. So much so that when my sister played it, she basically melted down, which was, to be honest, pretty funny.
It's not even scary.
Oh my god! If you're in the market for a VR game that's horror, I absolutely recommend this one as opposed to some of the other ones. It's hard to get horror right on the Quest 2 because the Quest 2's graphics are a little bit more limited than, say, Steam VR is, which unfortunately means that if it's not stylized, like in Fef VR, then everything just kind of looks cartoony, but luckily Fef VR, I started this as a joke, but now I'm calling it Fef all the time. But luckily, Foof VR's Fnoof VR, Foof's graphics is actually really good. It's a port of, I think it's the first 5 games in the series, so it's 1 to 4, and then also the 5th game, but they've all been remade completely, so everything works wondrously in VR now. They clearly put a lot of effort into this, and it's a really good FNAF. I think some people have rated it the best FNAF game, if I'm correct, and I can't blame them, because being able to actually interact with the animatronics in a fear-based environment is pretty much what FNAF was made for. So yes, definitely a game you want to check out if you're into horror games. If you're not, I'd just watch Markiplier play it. I'm assuming he's played it, and watching him get eaten by Booney is probably infinitely funnier than you getting a heart attack. I think there is actually a heart attack warning attached to the game, so yeah, not for the faint of heart. So naturally, I can't go anywhere near it. Crabs are very scared of bears. Is there a single environment where bears even meet crabs? I don't know. Maybe I'll look it up. Maybe I'll forget. I'll probably forget. Oh, I can't forget. It's on recording. Excellent. I'm a genius. I'm going to drink water. This is non-branded water. This is branded water. Can't censor it. Can't show it on the stream. No wonder I glued my hand together. I'm just simply not a very good human. So number 9 on this list is a little known game called Demeo. Demeo is basically Dungeons and Dragons. You've got the dice that you roll to see if you can get a hit on somebody, and it's like tabletop, so there's a bunch of enemies around, and the maps are really cool. They're all interactable, and there's 4 people. I can't really explain this game very well because I suck, but This game is amazing. The only problem with it is that it doesn't own a player base, and the reason for that is it's quite expensive. I think it's more expensive than Foof is. I don't know why they've decided to do that. They're a small team. In fact, I think this might be their first game, so I'm assuming they got a little bit greedy with it. It's a shame too, because this game is amazing, especially with the right people. It's so freaking vibe, because you just stand around a table. Well, I mean, you sit around a table, obviously. If you're standing while playing this, I think you're doing it wrong. How does Beans and Crab sit? Does he have joints in his legs? Maybe he just rotates his legs forward. Just floof. But yeah, this is an amazing little tabletop game. It's very different from most of the other things I play, which is why it's like this far up the list. And the only reason this is where it is now is because I like the ability to move around and explore environments. And although this game has that, it's on a little tabletop, which doesn't look nearly as immersive, unfortunately. There's also a regular PC version of this. I don't know if they're cross-play, I'm assuming they are, but again, the player base is sadly quite low. It's got a single player to it, but you play all the characters, so it's nowhere near as fun. Words, they're not things I can do. English language does not exist. It's a ploy created by the government to sell more cheese. It's a long story. You'd understand it if you were a cheese god like me. My Instagram is actually listed as being a cheese shop. I don't remember doing that. Maybe I was drunk. Yeah, I do adore Demio personally. It's a shame that no one else really knows about it because it's beautiful and I adore it. And the graphics are actually really good for a Quest game as well. So who knows, maybe if it gets a new update and it comes on deal, then you'll see. Maybe you can get some of your friends together playing it. It's amazing. I really hope they lower the price because I'd love to play this with people again, but I don't know how realistic that is. If you're into tabletops, definitely go with this one. Number 8 is Into the Radius. Now, I originally did quite like Into the Radius, but as I played it more than once, I kind of realized there's not really much going for it on a second playthrough. It's not like The Walking Dead where everything's kind of cool to look at. Everything's a bit drab. It looks significantly better on the PC, but the Quest, sadly, the graphics, they don't do great for it. The gun mechanics are really good, like they wear down and break, it's amazing, and the fact that you've got to manually do everything is awesome as well. It's just when you add survival stuff to a game like this, when games try and be realistic without graphics to suit it, it does kind of fall a bit short because you're trying to take everything seriously, but your brain can't quite get immersed because everything looks a little bit like a pixel. It's a real shame because I haven't tried it on the PC yet. I do own it on the PC, and I'd imagine that is way, way more immersive, so hopefully that will be a significantly better experience. But on its own, the game is unlike any other. It's a survival horror game, or at least I think it's supposed to be horror. Maybe I'm just spooked of everything because I simply don't know how to shoot things. It's got a ton of weapons, bunch of different difficulties. There's sadly not a mode where you can just sit and chill in the wilderness though. You've got to keep going back to your out of the radius, which does suck. I wish they'd make a mode that would allow you to do that because that would be way cooler in my personal opinion, making like a little base and just sitting on it. However, this is still a work in progress like most VR games are, so hopefully they'll add something like that. And it still made the list. I don't not like this game, I just don't enjoy it as much as maybe other people do, so apologies if this is way too low for you guys because I know a lot of people swear by this game. I don't mean to anger you, I simply don't enjoy it as much as I did when it first came out, which isn't really the game's fault. I think I'm just less inclined to enjoy games when they're more survivalist if I don't really vibe with what they do. Number 7 is The Walking Dead. This game was originally much higher on the list for me, like it was about 4th, maybe 5th, but I've played this game quite a lot, so it's kind of worn out its welcome for me. This is another game that unfortunately does suffer from the graphics. However, the graphics aren't the real problem with this game. The problem is the animations. So occasionally if you throw a grenade or fire a gun, it'll just lag like crazy, which is weird because I think this is the only game on the list that has any of that. I think it's the particle effect. I don't know why they didn't just update it and remove it, because I've heard a lot of people say it'd be really easy to do that and they just haven't. Which is a shame because in VR, for those of you who own a VR, if all of a sudden the frame rate starts melting, you're completely taken out of the experience. If it's not completely, I think 30 FPS is the best the Quest can do, but I never really had a problem with that. But all of a sudden it will slow to 5 FPS or even lower for like a good 2, maybe 3 seconds, and it completely takes you out of it. Other than that, this game is amazing. Going around houses, looting and shit, having to fight off zombies with a bunch of different melee weapons as well as guns. Back when this game released, Bone Lab and Blade and Sorcery didn't exist, so it was the only game that really allowed that kind of combat on the Quest. However, since Bone Lab and Blade and Sorcery were released later on, it's kind of been overshadowed by both of those in both types of combat. Guns and weapons in Bone Lab are simply infinitely more fun to use, and stabbing zombies is basically only really a one deal thing. You have to chop their heads off or just stab them, and it gets a bit repetitive, whereas in Blade and Sorcery, of course, you can stab any part of the human, and I might be a psychopath. The story is quite good though. It's a little bit on the short side, but I mean, it's a Quest game, so you can't have too much story in it. But I did find myself getting quite attached to the characters, and I think this is the game I've played the most. I've played through it like about 7 or 8 times. I've played through this game a lot, which is probably why it's so high up the list. If you've never played this before, play it, blind preferably. It's amazing. It's just if you play it over and over again, it's not going to hold up, which is fine. That's not the game's fault. I just played way too much of it. I do adore the school, if you know what I'm talking about. The school is unbelievable. Also, you can't have too many zombies on the Quest version either because it doesn't run too well, which is a shame, and the graphics are a little bit pixely. This game came out quite a while ago though, especially on the Quest standard. I think it was one of the first Quest games, so yeah, that's why it's suffering from lesser technology than new ones are. But it was one of the precursors for survival horror on the Quest, so you always got to appreciate it for that. So number 6 is Bone Lab. Now, a lot of you are probably going to be a bit confused if you saw this video that no one saw, and that's because I said that Bone Lab was originally the best game I'd ever played. When I first got it back in October, it was. I loved it. But as the months progressed, it just kind of got overshadowed by other games for me. Like shooting a dude in the leg and seeing him actually, like, you know, be injured by it was really fun. I think the main thing for me was the atmosphere. And what I'm talking about is every map is generated and you're in this box. And the problem with me is that when it doesn't feel like an actual world, like Walking Dead or something is, even though I know it's not, looking around and seeing the little squares on the outside of every map immediately reminds me that I'm just playing a game on my couch. Which isn't always a problem, but I just didn't like the idea of being stuck in a box. It was strange, like the entire thing, I was just in a simulation and not really doing what I was doing. It made everything just feel kind of pointless, like I wasn't going to go anywhere because I was stuck in a loop in the computer. It's hard to understand if you haven't played the campaign. Campaign's really good, by the way. I do adore the campaign, I do adore the crowbar. I love the mini-cart? Minecart? Just regular go-kart? I don't know, kart. Mario Kart was the one I was looking for. The little Mario Kart, some of the levels are beautiful. I love them so much. Getting stuck on the racetrack and trying to unwedge myself with a crowbar is genuinely some of the best fun I've had in VR. Piss. My car's stuck. Back, help! Yes, playing music is great. Little Lakitu, help me! Somebody help! Gordon. Of course. Not really sure what I'm doing. We have to get it under the lining. Come on. You can do it, Gordon. Some of these levels are fantastic. The campaign is, again, a bit short, but that's okay. I wasn't really bothered by it. Honestly, I'm just impressed it had a campaign. The problem with Bone Lab is it kind of has dropped off the face of the earth recently. It has the same engine as Boneworks, or at least I assume it does, because everyone immediately started porting over mods for it. So everybody's just continuing working on Boneworks, and has just kind of ignored Bone Lab as if it hasn't been released, which is a shame, but I don't really mod games, so I don't know why they're doing that. I can only assume they're doing it for a reason. I haven't really played Bone Lab with mods, so I probably haven't given it a good enough shot yet. I'm sure I'd really enjoy it with the right mods, but I don't know, the atmosphere just kind of confuses me. My brain's weird, just ignore me. If you like Bone Lab, can't blame you. I just kind of went off it as the months progressed, so I don't know, I just don't enjoy it as much as I used to. Still a very good game though, 10 out of 11. Number 5 is a game called Stop Right There, Beansy. That's right, it's me, Crab from the future. And I'm here to tell everyone that due to some unforeseen life things, that being that my dad broke his leg, like he broke his femur straight in half, we haven't really been able to edit properly because, you know, we've been helping him with that thing. So we're probably gonna have to split the video into 2 parts. Oh, see, that makes sense. Is that also why the video isn't very well edited this time? Yeah, it's also why we had to make the outro in crab form. Okay, so yes, look out for the video that's coming out next week, which will have the remaining 5 games in the list. Apologies for the inconvenience.